Let's do a deep dive looking into the serve technique of Rafael Nadal. Let's check out what you can copy to improve your own serve. Now, this video is courtesy of 12KGP Tennis on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe to their awesome channel. I've put their link in the description below. All right, the first thing is the grip. If we take a look at the beginning of his serve, we can see that his racket face angle is open. Look at video footage of you serving and check to see that at the beginning of your serve, your strings are facing up. This basically guarantees that you've got a continental grip. Unfortunately, most players, when they serve, their strings are facing down, which promotes a forehand grip. So this is one of the ways that tennis coaches can actually see what grip someone has on their serve while being many courts away. You just look at the racket face at the beginning of the serve. So have your strings facing up, which is what the majority of pros do in order to ensure that you have a continental grip. The second tip. I want you to look at your own serve, and I want you to check for one specific technique at this moment at the beginning of your serve called ball up, tip down. When the ball is out of your hand by about a foot or so, right, 12 inches, 15 inches, the tip of your racket should point down. What this means is that you are leading with the tossing arm, which makes the racket late, and then the hitting arm has to speed up. Many recreational players, they bring the racket up first before they ever toss the ball, and that promotes swinging slowly and waiting for the ball. If you toss first, then lift up the racket is late, and it necessitates swinging really fast. Tip number 3, let's look at his toss height. So if you've watched any of my videos, you know that I like to use a timer, and I put the ball near the top of the head, and I start a timer and see how long it takes for the player, whether a professional or an amateur, to make contact from this moment. And what I like to see is anywhere between 0.6 and 0.9 seconds elapsing until contact. So we put the timer down, and let's see what Nadal's toss timing is, and it is 0.84. So he is within the range of 0.6 to 0.9 seconds. Most recreational players I see who struggle with their serve are above a full second. So the key, if you're tossing really high, the key to tossing lower, which is going to be really benefit you for many reasons, the key is to toss slower. If you think of tossing slower, the ball will not go as high. It'll be easier to hit the sweet spot. It'll give you less time to swing, which promotes racket speed, and also gives you a more consistent toss because the ball doesn't spray all over the place. Tip number 4, when you lift your racket up, and we can see this with Nadal, have the tip of your racket pointing the same direction as your chest. This is called palm down, right? His palm is down, his strings are down. And this allows for the proper knock off the birthday hat movement, where if you were a unicorn, your racket would hit your horn, right? Or the racket, if you were wearing a birthday hat, would hit the birthday hat off your head. What I would recommend you not do is take the racket across your feet and point the tip of the racket at the back fence. When you watch the biggest servers, they tend to not point the tip of the racket at the back fence, but rather they lift the racket up into what many players call the trophy position from the knees up above the head, and they do so by having the tip of the racket pointing the same direction as the chest. This gets you primed and ready to use the fastest motion possible, which is the birthday hat movement. Number 5 is exactly that, the birthday hat. You'll see his racket is moving from left to right. Now, righties move the racket from right to left, and the racket makes this move. This allows for a circular path to the ball. If you're going into the waiter's tray, it stops the racket. You want to think of the swing almost being like a helicopter blade or like a lasso above your head. Yes, there's a racket drop, and we can see his racket drop right there. But instead of trying to force the racket drop, try to pass the racket in over your head. So wear a physical birthday hat on your head, right? Like there's the string under his chin, and try to knock the birthday hat off from front to back. That uses a circular swing path to get to the ball, and it helps you build up a lot of speed. Tip number 6, let's look at his leg drive timing, because you can see his knees are bent here, and now he explodes up, and now his legs are straight, right? And that's the kinetic chain, the energy going through the body, stretches the shoulder back, then it, kind of like a catapult swings the arm up over the shoulder and the racket up over the hand. What is the proper time, though, to explode up? Well, we talked about the birthday hat. It isn't just enough that you hit the birthday hat off, but we want to explode up with the body before or as we're hitting the birthday hat. So let's see when Nadal starts going up with his body. And in fact, we can see the back of the fence is right there. So notice his head goes down to that yellow line. And then when do we see his hat, his orange hat, up above right there? We see it. Perfect. So we see the hat now above that line. That means he's engaging his legs. He's pushing down against the ground and he's exploding up. That's going to help his racket drop to be greater. This is as late as you can drive your legs up and maximize the leg drive, but it's not like it's too late. This is exactly right. You want to explode your legs up when your racket's either above your head or as early as over here. You look at Riley Opelka, you look at Kyrgios, they're more over here, Grigor Dimitrov, and then you see Roger Federer, Nadal, Djokovic, they're more above their head. Even Isner, the racket's more above the head. You want the racket in this area. This is the range of acceptability, somewhere there. That's where you want your racket when you start exploding your legs up. The whole purpose of exploding the body up is because when the body goes up, as the racket goes down, and you can see that his body's going up opposite the racket, what ends up happening is you stretch the shoulder back, more flexibility, and then the racket, when it gets stretched down, then has more of a catapulting effect to get more racket speed up into the ball. Number 6, let's look at just before contact. This is such a cool view. Look how on edge he is so late in the swing. This is unbelievable. This is a supinated position where his strings are facing off to the side. And if he stayed that way, he would hit the frame of the racket. The whole point of the Continental is to create this on edge position that then requires pronation as you're hitting. So you might actually want to practice hitting some serves with a Continental, and you can do that by having your racket face open at the beginning of the serve. And when you go up to the ball, hit the ball with the frame of the racket just to feel what that's like. And then what you want to learn is at the last second, you turn and you can see his racket goes from facing off to the right to now facing off to the left. That is the fastest way to move the racket through contact. You can't serve as fast if your strings are facing up at this moment and then you snap the wrist and then you point your strings down when you're done. You want the strings to face off to the side and then face off to the other side, 180 degrees of rotation or even more than that, but a minimum of 180 degrees of rotation. That's the fastest way to move the racket through contact, and you'll do that no matter what serve you're hitting, flat, slice, or topspin. Now, when we look at the contact, now that we understand, the pronation that's going to be occurring through contact, let's look at the angle when it comes to his arm and his racket. You have to stay away from thinking that the racket and the arm should be in a straight line at contact. It's simply not what you see from the best players. From the best players at contact, there's an angle. The arm and racket are not in a straight line. If you're right-handed, you want the racket to the left of your hand. When you're left-handed, you want to think of the racket being to the right of your hand. This creates the proper angle between the arm and the racket when striking the ball, and then it's a more forceful pronation. When the racket goes over the hand, it's not as forceful a movement as when the racket feels like it's more turning on the inside of the hand. So his racket is not in a straight line with his arm. That's actually allowing him to have more force in his pronation. And that force is going to turn into more racket speed. And last is his finish. Notice when he's done, his arms are crossed. This is called a power X. If you're right-handed, your left hand will be visible to the camera behind you. Nadal's a lefty, so his right hand is visible to the camera behind him. When your arms cross like this, it keeps your body from rotating as you hit the ball. You do not want to rotate as you hit the ball, but in fact, you want to stop your body's rotation, and that helps accelerate the racket. Watch this area of his body as he's hitting the ball. His kind of trunk and core and all the way down to maybe like his thighs. Watch how his belt buckle basically is pointing at this net post. Before he hits the ball and after he hits the ball. If we zoom in here and we just look at this area, watch how there's no rotation. Watch before, during, and after contact, there is zero rotation of the body. He has stopped the body's rotation. Here we can see his chest. And then when he's done, we don't see his chest. So his body is rotating, but then his body stops rotating. And when you stop the body's rotation, that accelerates the racket even more. So when you're done serving, finish with your arms crossed like an X. It's called a reactive break. You'll get more racket speed because of it. You know, a lot of people say, no, when you bring this arm in, it helps you spin faster, Ryan. Just think about figure skaters or divers, right? Or gymnasts. It's like, well, that's not what's happening though. We don't see him spinning. He's not spinning as, you know, when he brings that arm in, it actually stops the spinning from occurring. And the whole purpose of that is to accelerate the racket. Now, if you're tired of lugging around your old and outdated ball machine, then just make your tennis friends jealous and get the Proton ball machine by Hydrogen Sports. And right now you can get free shipping in the USA when you use my link. It's in the description. You'll find it in the first comment. You'll also see it on the screen at the end of this video. The Proton is fully programmable using its intuitive app. In fact, you control it using your smartphone or watch. It holds up to 100 balls and weighs less than 20 pounds. To see how truly amazing this ball machine is, and to get free shipping when you order one, be sure to use my link. So click right there to check out the Proton ball machine, and with that link, you're given a coupon code for free shipping. Go out and film yourself serving. Review the footage and compare it to what you learned in this video. If you do, there's no doubt you're going to gain confidence, win more matches, and play much better tennis. This is Ryan Reedy from 2minutetennis.net. You got this.